Next up at UFC 283, we have Thiago Moises, who, by the grace of God, he sat down every day praying to that giant Brazilian Jesus. Please, for the love of God, don't let me fight Garam. Please. And they were like, all right, fine. Take on Melquizael Costa on short notice. Fine. Here you go. You've done enough. So Thiago Moises has a short notice, last minute replacement. And he's a heavy favorite, and he should be. He's 16-6 overall, 3-2 in his last 5. He is coming off the submission win over Christos Gallegos, and he's taking on 0% chance I actually pronounced this name, Melquizael Costa, 19-5 overall, 4-1 in his last 5. He is making a short notice UFC debut. I'm going Thiago Moises here, but a lot of you probably don't know who Melk is, so we'll just talk about him briefly. He is a well-rounded guy. He's got some creative striking. He's got solid grappling. His takedowns are forced, but he is strong enough and he's persistent enough that even if he doesn't get you to the ground, he'll get some cage control and then he'll hold you and, sort of work you for a little bit trying to do that. You will see him work takedowns very often, but he really doesn't need to. He's got powerful hands, solid striking technique, and he strings together combinations pretty well, and he'll even work in some spinning attacks. The problem is, Thiago Moises, he's only 27, but he's basically a veteran at this point. He's got very technical striking. He's got good wrestling, phenomenal jiu-jitsu, and I think this fight basically looks like his last fight. I think this kind of looks like the Christos Gallegos fight. I think he's going to waste 0 time striking, get it to the ground, and then immediately, he's going to be the better grappler and immediately work towards that submission. So I like Moises to win. I have a 3-unit bet on him at minus 335. So this is starting to move. It's minus 375 now. So a little bit of closing line value there potentially. But I think it's a pretty straightforward breakdown. What do you think?
I'm agreed on all accounts. I think the line is a little wide for Thiago Moises. Realistically, I don't think Thiago Moises should be that big of a favorite against a lot of guys. But in a situation like this, Melk, I won't try to say his name either, making his UFC debut. This should be easy work for Thiago Moises. I do worry for Moises that, and the last fight kind of debunked this for me, but I worry that he fights to the level of his competition. We remember when Michael Johnson was piecing him up for an entire round before he stepped into a heel hook. I don't know if you know this. Thiago Moises, one significant strike that fight. One.
I did not.
Made it to the second round. Only one.
Yeah,
Terrible look. Terrible look. How does that happen against Michael Johnson? How? And then you have to look at the fight with Bobby Green. He gets the decision. Did he actually win that fight? I don't know. But then you see him actually hold his own against Islam Makhachev. And that kind of tells you where he's at with his maturation, because he's a young guy. He's been in the UFC for a while, getting better with each fight. And last time out was kind of his masterpiece, right? Like, he looked real good against Giagos, and I think he could look good against Melk as well. Sneaky play on DraftKings at 9,000. Not a lot of people are going to be dying to play him, but I do think that he probably wins inside the distance.
Yeah, and you're right. He's been in the UFC for a very long time, and we've seen him mature. I cannot believe he's only 27. Yeah. I would have assumed he was like 33, and he's finally he's at his peak, like right there, and then, eventually he'll have a steep fall. But he's only 27, and he's not an abused 27. Like, yes, he's been in some wars and stuff, but he's not abused. His body's not falling apart. So, and I agree. I love Thiago Moises. We've picked him as an underdog a couple of times and had some success. He was Jacob's lock of the week like a year and a half ago. I don't even remember who the opponent was. But minus 375 is wide for Thiago Moises in general because he's not a killer. But with these circumstances, I don't mind it. It feels appropriate with these circumstances against this opponent. And he was training for Garam. He was training for a beast.
Garam would have smoked him.
He 100% would have. I would have bet everything on him. 100%. Garam was in the safety parlay, and then that fell apart. But, he was still training for that, knowing what he was going up against. And like you said, Thiago Moises showed up when he fought the freaking champ. What the hell's his name?
Makhachev.
Yeah. Say Islam. Who the hell says his last name? Islam. So he showed up in that fight. Yes, he lost, but he showed up and put on a decent performance against the now champion. So we know he takes those fights seriously. He was training for Garam. He got the gift of the century. I think he blows through Costa here. I think we both agree. 9,000 though, it's tricky because if you're going to spend the 9,700 on Almeida, your next expensive pick is going to be a tricky one, and you have to be very, very confident. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, based on what you said, though, if you're going the Lacerda route and you roster the main, the co-main, Jailton Almeida, you could squeeze Thiago Moises in there and still have a little bit of wiggle room as well.
Yeah, we have a couple of guys that should win at that 9-something thousand price point. We'll talk about a few in a minute, but I do think Moises wins this fight. I'm pretty confident. Obviously, I put actual money on it, so I will potentially try to squeeze him into my DraftKings lineup. You mentioned that one significant strike. I do think this is a less play because I think he grapples instantly. I don't even think he's going to waste his time on his feet.
I agree. I was waiting for you to say that. I think that's less as well.
Yeah, so we're on the same side here. Before I do any of my own plugs, follow Kunith. He is here. He is helping me out. Jacob is sick, like actual sick, not dying sick, but like way too sick to be on camera and try to be entertaining. So he's taking the time off to get better, and I reached out to Kunith, and Kunith stepped up. He has his own channel, lots of great insight, as you can see. He says like rude shit under his breath about us sometimes. That is what it is. But go ahead, at Kunith MMA. The link is in the description.
Go there.
And tell him that we sent you so he can see why they're there. It's not organic. Make sure he knows why you went there. Not, I found you naturally. No. They sent me. Like when you go to the deli and you're like, oh, Joey sent me. Do that. So he needs to know.
You say mozzarella at the deli?
I hate that shit. Did you hear me rant about that last week?
Yeah, that's when we were talking about tournament as well.
Yeah. Yeah, oh yeah, exactly. I just hate mozzarella. You just speak perfect, normal, regular person English, and then
prosciutto.
Yeah, with a B, prosciutto. It's like, come on, what are you doing? Like, you talk like a person. Stay talking like a person. Like, hello, can I please have? I'll do 1 pound of mortadella, a half a pound of prosciutto. Like, shut up, dude. Shut up.